the NCAA will launch an investigation into the championships and the discrepancies in their events as it relates to men and women. I honestly don't think that's necessary. We already know, but call it what you want. Here's what I don't want to do. So many people came at Lynn Holtzman, and look, this is not personal. I don't know her personally, but I'm sitting here thinking someone that's been a pioneer of the game, surely she's going to get the benefit of my doubt when she's not making the final decision. That's just my take on it. There's this ongoing antitrust litigation with the governing body, and there's an economist. He's an expert witness. And in 2018 and 19, women's basketball made almost $500 million. His quote was, "I don't see how they could lose money." So I'm going to just leave that where it's at. It's going to take care of itself. I want to get to the NCAA women's tournament, the games. You know, as a coach, it's nice to enjoy it as a fan, listen to everyone else weigh in. And sometimes I have a different peek into things, you know, the Caitlin Paige matchup, Iowa, UConn. Here's what was most exciting for me. Every time they say Warnock, you know, I was actually thinking about Reverend Warnock and what athletes and people can do to move the needle. But I also thought about what a nice opportunity for this kid to be seen on this stage, because no one ever mentioned her name, right? And let's take it one step further. Williams and Westbrook from Connecticut was like, hey there, we're here too. So we may not like how it got there and how it was publicized, but this is the moment that we're in. It was maximized. And now we keep pushing, because we're not just happy to be here. There's so many soldiers in this fight to push for what's right. That part. I think an aspect of it that's resonated with me, maybe some older people too, hearing Debbie, Antonelli, and Beth Mowins, I think, on Stanford's game, and just bringing that old school flavor to the history of the game, that the first thing I thought about was how many times I've heard college players say they don't even watch the WNBA. And then here you have these two ladies who are pioneers of the game in their own right, and they're talking about the K.Yow's and the Pat Summits and relaying it to Tara and, you know, all those connections. And Beth even mentioned Coach Gunner's name, so you know I'm sitting there like, this is some good stuff. And I say that because I'll get to Tara just to kind of date some things for you, you know, and those of us in the game, we know Tara's, her timeline of things. But the long short of it, people who don't, is that there's a really nice article, and she talks about how she got into basketball, and there wasn't a girls basketball team in junior high. So she loved the game so much, she signed up to be the mascot. Well, she wasn't really cheering because she wanted to watch the game so much, and she got fired from that. We're talking about Tara Vanderveer. You know, the winningest coach, Olympic coach, championship coach, student of the game, making adjustments on the fly with her Stanford team, who's the overall #1, spent all these days on the road because of the county that she was in was impacted by COVID, blah, 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 blah. And all she does is win, 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 right? I love that. I hope the people outside of our women's basketball bubble will grab onto that, because she'll resonate with you in so many ways. I remember something about Tara golfing. People would ride in the cart. If it was a scramble, she would get her exercise in by running and picking up the balls that you didn't hit. And she could remember telephone numbers and birthdays. But anyway, then that leads me to, when Dawn talked about C. Vivian Stringer, I got goosebumps, a little lump in my throat. And you can just feel that, because it made the conversation longer about Cheney State. And I think Andy said, you got people don't even know where Cheney State's located. It's an HBCU. So it's that, pull that into this time. I remember the Amana Hawkeye Classic. I mean, Coach Stringer was getting these big sponsors behind her tournaments and giving away microwaves and all these awesome gifts. I remember enjoying going to that. And that's just a fun side note. But then her longevity and success in this league, and the players that just adore her, even though she was hard as hell on them with the marathon practice. They learned basketball, they learned life lessons, they learned how to adjust. Had the pleasure of coaching a few of them, you know, from Benaja to Piff to Cappy. And so you get that tough metal in those players. And you know it was coming from Coach Stringer because they always talked affectionately about her. Even when I was in Russia, Piff would bring up Coach Stringer stories and how much they just adore her for everything that she stood for. And of course, I went to Dawn because I don't think she gets enough credit. And I'm not going to be careful with this. You know, the headline after her last win was more about Georgia Tech, and I love Nell. That was a good one too. But it was about how they gave him a good run, and I get that. And I think that's a great thing because when you've arrived at the point where the expectations are just about what other teams can do to slow you down, that's a good thing. So that's how I chose to look at it. You know, it's hardly ever about what they do. And I think they use that as fuel anyway. A little bit more about the coaching. You know, I'm getting into different demographics. I look at Adia Barnes. I have no personal connection. Of course, Seattle days, you know, I'm coaching Lauren and Sue in Russia, watching them play for championships in different places. But to go back to her alma mater and do what she's doing and the way she's doing it, it's fun to see. And then my connection is Joan Bonvicini. You know, I remember Joan Bonvicini, I'm thinking when she was at Long Beach State. Heck, I was a player. They were number 2 in the nation with Penny Tola and, you know, other great players. And just that coaching tree from a player. Joan was tough. You know, I even played for Joan with USA Basketball. And so I'm excited for Dia. I know it's a personal connection, but it's also how she's gathered her troops to just kind of keep their head down and D up, man up, and then push the ball and make things happen. And I could go on and on and on, but some of those things are being talked about because we're getting awesome coverage from awesome people that love this game and they're stewards of the game. The next thing is the NBA. You know, I joked about Shaq and Candace. I love the way they work together. And, you know, I had the fortune of being at LSU when Shaq was there as a student. And he's a great guy. And I love his banter. And when he cares about something, he gets behind it. I love the way he and Candace have developed this relationship. And I think Shaq's daughter committed to LSU. I'm not 100% sure she stayed and played. But he's someone that's just going to fall in love with this game because he's about passion stuff. He's about fairness. You know, Shaq was behind the big Black Lives Matter push at LSU, not just for men's basketball, but women's basketball. It wasn't a university thing. It was a basketball thing. So those are the things that give me confidence that once, you know, he started getting eyes on more of the action, and because of his relationship with Candace, that's going to be a positive thing. And I'm going to say Draymond because that's the last NBA player that put something out that some people thought were controversial. I don't think it was controversial. I said this in my intro. We just have to meet people at their point of need. I like the fact that it was on his mind. I like the fact that Sarah Spain, you know, who's at ESPN, went at it in a way where she dissected things in terms of trying to educate Draymond, but also encouraging. And of course, people want to attack her because, well, you're at ESPN. Like, miss me with all that. She understands her struggle. But then the other end of it was, I read something with Devereaux Peters. You know, Sarah Spain has this position and she's trying to do her thing. Devereaux Peters has a different thing, this passion and her purse, right? And so it's all good stuff. And look, there are so many others in between. My point is this. Come on, Draymond. Come on, Brian. Chris Paul. We know he Kyrie, 1.5 million to WNBA players. And, you know, Russell Westbrook. Let's get Steph. Hell, he's in commercials with Sue. My point is this. Bring the players together. It's an awesome team. because we already know what these basketball players can do. We watched it. You know, they got the momentum and they flipped Georgia. Think about that. So if we can get them together in their lifelong passion of basketball, it's a win-win. So I'm excited about that. But look, I got to get ready for these games tonight. Last night was amazing. I know everyone's talking about the upset with Texas, Maryland, and that's awesome and wonderful. It made me think about, I remember 10 years ago, I was on Capitol Hill about analytics. Love it. I think that's great too. And there's always trends in the game, you know. Regardless of certain trends in the game, some things remain the same. The defense was on display. And what people don't talk about the year when Golden State was crazy good offensively, like just stupid good, they were number 2 defensively. So I know Coach Gunnar was turning over in her grave because she would always talk about that gritty part of the game. And look, I'm going to just enjoy it like everyone else and watch things rise as we all come together. Ciao.